Okay, so topic today is Facebook's removing everyone's listings. I mean, my thought process on it is it's about damn time, but people are angry. People are upset that that their listings are being removed. It started out that everyone thought that it was just anything that had an MLS link in it, but that's actually not the case. It's not just the stuff with the MLS link. It's really announcing any listing, and people are up in arms that it's listings. There's really I mean, the bots and the way that they have updated them is anything with an MLS link, anything that is like kind of billboardy type content, which I mean, I've been talking about for 5 years, not doing. Um, and anything that the call to actions are also being, some of them are being filtered out as phishing. And so this is not a bad thing. No, they're not going to build a new system for realtors because realtors just have to start marketing properly. Really, that's the main issue, is that this industry has been spamming on social media. And now that we're being called out for spamming, people are all up in arms and saying realtors are under attack. Realtors are not under attack. Realtors have been violating Facebook's terms of service for years and getting away with it. And now that they're not getting away with it anymore, everyone's all upset. But the reality is those types of posts are spam. And so not allowing them anymore is actually a good thing. It's everywhere. So it's business pages, because business pages are not meant to be used that way either. Right. And I think that the industry is in for a bit of a rude awakening on social media, where all of the things that I've been saying for the last 5 years, Facebook has just cracked down on. And people are now starting to see, and so there's two camps of agents here. There's the camp of agents who are like, oh, I see what people are saying, and I want to create better content. And then there's the camp of agents who want to be victims and who are saying, this isn't fair. They're going against realtors. Well, no, real estate is one of the only industries that still markets this way. But yes, Jamie, business pages are made for advertising, but that's not advertising. That's not good advertising. And I think that this is the mindset shift that people need to have. That kind of marketing doesn't matter on what platform and in what capacity is spam, because there are platforms made for that. Zillow, Realtor.com, Realtor.ca, House Sigma. Those are platforms that are made for looking at listings. Facebook is not. Facebook is made for community building, for social networking. And if your ads aren't good, they're going to decline them. If your marketing isn't good, it's going to be taken down. If you are spamming people on a platform made for community, you will be in violation of their terms of service. And I think that this is very, very difficult for people to understand who have been doing essentially bad marketing for so long. This applies to everything. So the call me call to action is phishing, because real marketers don't run call me campaigns. There's no such thing as call me. You have to understand Facebook or social media as a business, and then you have to understand how your business fits into the way that the platforms are intended to be used. So Facebook as a business, we have to keep people on the platform. So we keep people on the platform not by linking them to places off the platform. So if you drop an MLS link in a post or a YouTube link, or you put a call me campaign together, that takes people off the platform. And if somebody clicks or closes the platform, that means that Facebook is losing money from the stuff that you are putting on the platform. So a lot of this comes down to, are you using the platform to your best advantage, really? So the way that and there's not really a way to get it. I've had people be like, how do we get around it? Well, you don't get around it. You create better content. You create content that doesn't break or violate the terms of service of the platform that you're trying to put it on. Right? So I think a lot of this comes down to the way that I've been teaching things for the last 5 to 7 years is in compliance with the way that Facebook wants you to advertise. It's also in the way that every other industry has evolved to advertise. And I want to make it very clear, I love this industry, but this industry has not evolved the way that other industries have evolved. So because of that, we feel victimized by the changes that are happening, even though these changes have happened in every other industry years and years ago. So what all Facebook wants is for you to abide by the rules. And so abiding by the rules from Facebook, Instagram, and all of the platforms, like if you've been posting listings anywhere that isn't where listings are meant to be housed, this is going to happen because we have to keep, sorry, I'm just going to read a comment. Yeah, there's, first of all, there's no such thing as being shadow banned. That's not actually a thing anymore. If you feel like your content's not being pushed out, it's because the platform and your audience doesn't like your content. So the way that the algorithm works is if you post something and your audience or the segment of your audience that's being shown that content doesn't respond to it, then it dies in the algorithm. And so if you feel like you've been quote unquote shadow banned or the algorithm is against you or any of those things, it's actually not an algorithm problem, it's a content problem. Because the people who are creating content that their people like, 10% sees it, and then 10% sees it, and then another 10% sees it, right? And so a lot of the time what ends up happening is we don't understand the way that the algorithm is pushing out content. And instead of taking responsibility and saying, okay, my content's bad, we instead say, oh, the algorithm is pushing my content down, or I'm shadow banned, or any of those things, which is not true. The truth of the matter is if you're not getting the reach with your content that you want, exactly, shadow ban is the new word for it. You're basically calling yourself out. If you say out loud or in any way, I am shadow banned, what you're really saying is my content is bad and I won't take responsibility for the fact that my content isn't good. So I think that a lot of this really just comes down to keeping just like what everyone else in every other industry in the universe knows is that announcing a listing is not marketing. Saying I listed this property is not marketing. Marketing is storytelling. It's a hook, a main point, and a payoff. When you post, when you are using a social networking community building platform like a billboard, you are spamming. That is literally the definition of spam. And so Jamie's just asking, other than Facebook, where do you advertise? Instagram, Google, YouTube, like there's a million other places that you can actually run cold lead gen ads. So yeah, I mean, most marketing or most content is a hook, a main point, and a payoff, right? Like there's a point to every single post that's not just I'm putting my stuff in front of people. This is also the best possible opportunity for you to tell your ideal clients or tell your listings, I can't do this anymore. Facebook is removing this type of content. So the number one thing that people say to me when I'm like, don't post just listed, just sold, essentially garbage content, they say, Well, what about my clients, the people who are listing the homes, they want to see their stuff on social media. Not anymore. Your answer to that is I can't post that stuff anymore because Facebook removes it as spam. So instead of these types of content, I'm going to talk, instead of like spammy content, I'm going to talk to you about how to do this and show people that you are active, that you do have business, that things are moving, that they keep you top of mind in a way that isn't spammy. And so Instagram is exactly the same thing. This is an entire meta thing. They've started on Facebook, yes, but this will go out to Instagram as well. So all meta platforms eventually will do the same thing. So instead of, honestly, that the first day that it started happening, my entire feed was agents basically saying that Meta was against them and boycott Meta and all of these things. And it's like, well, I think that people are missing the point. I think the point is that this kind of marketing is spam and has always been spam. And we as an industry have been violating their terms of service since the beginning of time. And now we're not allowed to, and we're upset about it. And so, sure, you're allowed to be upset about it because it's what you know, and it's a change, and maybe it's a change that you weren't anticipating. But at the same time, too, this is a good change. I was thrilled when I saw it. When this started happening, I was like, finally, I'm not going to be screaming this message into the ether by myself, saying, this is spam. I finally have essentially like the platform also saying, yep, it's spam. So instead, what do we do? Well, if you're in the listings lab, you follow the content wheel. You follow the 9-point psychological journey from stranger to client, and it will do all of it for you. So instead of just solds, you do case studies. Properly documented case studies. Your behind the scenes and the way that you use Facebook stories and Instagram stories and personal stories, that is vlog content or behind the scenes content, which will also talk about what you're doing in a day-to-day, which will talk about the business that you are conducting. So personal content, so personal stories, case studies. The other thing that we have the opportunity to use here is, process solution. Your process solution, that content also needs stories in it, and we get to highlight current clients, past clients, future clients, all of those things. This has been built this way from the very beginning when I built it to essentially replace this kind of content that holds no value. Your full intention when you create content is to provide value to your audience. To provide value to the audience, to provide value to the platform. Just listed, just sold, under contract, that kind of content is only valuable to you. And you guys have seen me show you, let me find the image again that I use 10,000 times a day. Let me find it, hang on. Because then it'll give you a visual that I can actually like talk through in an easier way. Give me 1 second. Because I think that this is also going to be really important. Oh crap. Sorry if you guys hear dogs barking, dogs barking or a big bang, I apologize. There's like 800 cats on my kitchen counter that are about to knock things off the kitchen counter. Okay. So, let me share my screen. It's always a party in here. Thank you, Eve. My husband just ran in and like grabbed it right before it hit the ground. Okay. So this image, you guys have, if you've been coming to these or you've been to any of our live events, you've seen this image 100 times. Let me explain this image to you in a different way. And through the lens of just listed, just sold, like that kind of content. So let's say this is your entire audience. When we create content, we're not really creating, we're creating some content for the people who are not problem aware, because these people are essentially referral sources, or one day will be potential clients. But right now, they're tickety-boo, happy in their homes, not doing anything. So these are the people who are in that like 8.5-year cycle where, you know, they're chill. So how you keep these people engaged for the most part is just education, not education on the actual buying and selling process, but just education on what's going on in the world and the market, personal beliefs, personal philosophy, personal story, lighthearted content, past, present, lighthearted content, right? So your personal content will be what these people, for the most part, consume. So whenever anybody posts authority content and then posts personal content, they're like, why does my personal content perform so much better? Well, 100% of your audience is interested in your personal content. Your authority content, for the most part, is only this triangle, this triangle here, right? So we have a 40% of your audience is interested in your authority content. So good quality authority content. People who are problem aware and who are starting to think about things, people who are in information gathering mode. Now, your just listed, just sold content is only for 3%. It's only going to be interesting to the people who are in that 3% of buying now. But here's the problem. You post a just listed that is 450,000. But the person who is in that buying now is looking for in the price range of 900,000. Again, not relevant. So when we're talking about relevancy being the number one most important thing when we talk about content, it actually means that every single time you post a just listed, just sold, under contract, that kind of piece of content, you are actually only speaking to less than 1% of your total audience. You may have relevancy to less than 1%. And you actually may have relevancy to 0%. Now, what does that mean? Lack of relevancy equals spam. And this is how Facebook is also defining it. So if you are trying to build an audience, you have to consider it as a community. It's not a group of people for you to put flyers in front of. Flyers are not advertising online. When we think about the way that the biggest product companies create content now, there is an entire industry of UGC creators. UGC stands for user-generated content. There are people who their entire job is to create videos for products that never go on their personal pages. They only go on the product pages. But it's all content. It's people using the product. So when we think about user-generated content or influencer type content, it all follows the same frameworks. It all has story. It all has a payoff, a hook, a main point, and a payoff. And so when we think about content and how content is meant to be created, it's very, very important to understand that they don't look like billboards. Even if they are a static image, there is some sort of story in it. It's not a look at me type piece of content, which is important to understand. So instead of this type of content, you can create high value, high engagement, high storytelling content while also highlighting or showing as a byproduct of the content that you're doing business and that you're doing a lot of business and that you're doing a great job with this business through case studies, testimonials, personal story or vlog type content, behind the scenes, and really like anything that is going to take people along for the journey, and the process content. So your process content, your process solution content as well, because your process solution content should always have an example in it. And the example will and can be either someone who has just transacted with you or someone who is in the current process of transacting with you. I want you to start thinking about the way that you position things and the way that you tell these stories, like HGTV. Use HGTV as like kind of that model, because it's like I've said this a million times. It's HGTV is an entire network of case studies. And every single one of them follows the same arc. There's where are they before? Where do they want to be? The process in between, right? It's the same arc in every story, whether someone is going to renovate their bathroom or they're moving to Belize or whatever they're doing. The arc is the same. It's the transformation of these people's lives that actually draws people in. Is this making sense? We're not bringing people back to the business page, Anna. Anna, are you in? Send Carolee a message, or Carolee, can you send Anna a message? Because it feels like there's like a very big disconnect here, and I just want to make sure that she's properly served on this call. We are not bringing people back to the business page, because the business page is going to be organically the worst possible reach that you have. So your business page is essentially there to house your paid traffic and to be searchable from an SEO standpoint, like a website. You have to have it to show you are a business, but it is not going to be the place where you generate business. And if you think about the idea, right? Basic advertising has always been, you need to build know, like, and trust. We've heard this a million times. And no one can know you, like you, or trust you if they don't know anything about you. And so it's actually through the behind the scenes, the personal content, the way that you are connecting with people that actually brings people in and will make them want to be a client. It's your personality. It's the way that you do things. It's the way that you think about things. How many people here have been to a super salesy webinar and thought, I don't like this? You are doing that. You are the super salesy webinar. Would you keep coming to these calls if I didn't tell you stories and give you value, and if I wasn't just like me? Probably not. It's the way that we talk about things. It's the learning, it's the personal stories. It's the fact that I'm going to tell you that my office smells like happy. It's, it's like the real stuff that actually creates the connection. And it's what's missing from 99% of real estate content, is actually allowing yourself to actually create a community. Because that's really what your audience should be and should feel like. It should feel like your community. It should feel like you're having conversations and everyone in that audience is your friend. It shouldn't be a place that you can put listings in front of and advertise and try to extract money from them. That's not the intention of social media. Money is the byproduct. Clients are the byproduct of value and connection and community. Right? If you've read my Listings Lab guide, relevancy, omnipresence, intimacy. You have to have every single piece of that in order for your community to quote unquote convert. So the relevancy piece, we talked about that, not only being relevant to a tiny portion of who you're speaking to. The omnipresence piece happens, through paid traffic, yes, but also through different organic platforms. But again, there's a lot of people who are still trying to be omnipresent with a lack of relevancy. And then the intimacy piece is the community and the connection and the conversations. And the conversations lead to business, but the conversations only happen when everything else is working in alignment. And so the just listed, just sold, like billboard type content actually stops the relevancy, the community, the conversation, and the connection. Was this helpful? Okay. Um, yeah, Jamie, 100%. If you just start, especially if you haven't like gone through a lot of the course yet, keep going because it essentially holds your hand and like builds you through the entire like psychological wheel that you need for all of this. Um, Now, if there's anything that you are struggling with or like trying to navigate any of this change, just send me an email. I'm going to also address this very heavily um, at our Calgary event. I only have maybe 3 tickets left for that event. Carolee dropped my email and her email. So if you're scared of me for whatever reason, you can email her. She's way scarier than I am. Um, and you feel free to send us an email and to have a conversation about kind of how you're feeling about it and how you're navigating it. Yeah, Calgary is almost sold out. We have Benny, who is here, took one of our last tickets um, to Calgary. She's actually still on the island. She's here doing her thing. Benny, I'm glad this was helpful. Benny's going to be my new best friend. I'm obsessed with her. Um, and so come to the Calgary event if you are interested, if you can get to it. Like I said, we have like maybe 3 tickets left. You can send either myself or Carolee an email and we can get you a ticket to it. The content will be 100% different than it was last year because everything's changing and everything continues to change and evolve. So we're going to address this topic in particular in a lot of depth, and there'll be an entire section or, 2 hours on how to navigate it and what to do instead. Cool. Well, if you need anything, you let us know. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Bye.